Hey guys, Pastor Myers here, and this is the first episode of I Got a Question. And today I'm going to be answering two questions. So the first question is this: what are your thoughts about the pros and cons of masks and social distancing right now? I live in blank blank, and I'm trying to be as safe as possible, but I really miss being social and going to church. There's only two people, myself and another person, wearing a mask at work, and I've been invited to social events, but have kindly rejected. I'm starting to wonder if I'm still on the right track. Also want to be a witness for God, and I sometimes feel selfish for staying home. What are your thoughts? So, my thoughts are, wear a mask, and don't feel pressure by people, leading you to think, oh, you're being selfish or you're being afraid or anything like that because of wearing a mask. I think the safe thing to do is wear a mask. You would rather be safe than sorry. You're not only thinking about yourself, but you're thinking about the health of others. So, from what I understand, you can actually have COVID and be symptom-free, but pass it to someone else. So, personally, I'm wearing a mask, not only for my safety, but because I'm thinking about other people as well. And you can still be a witness with a mask, right? Mask has nothing to do with whether you're able to witness for God or not. Be safe and take precautions, because you would rather be safe than sorry. So the second question is, I was wondering about the 7 churches of Bible prophecy, of the book of Revelation. How do we know whether these churches represent periods of time throughout history, or if they represent one period of time, and that is during the early church, during the apostles? So the answer to this question is relatively simple, although we can unpack it a whole lot more, but I'm just going to try to juice this down as best I can. So when you look at the book of Revelation, and you look at these 7 churches, they represent a cycle of time. So if you go back to the very first time you have this series of 1 through 7, it's in the book of Genesis, right? The 7 days of creation. Those 7 days, the week, represents a progression of time. So when you get to the book of Revelation and you have these 7 churches, these 7 seals, and these 7 trumpets, they represent a progression of time. It's not happening simultaneously. The week was not created simultaneously. It was day 1, day 2, day 3, so on and so forth. So when we get to the book of Revelation and we're looking at these 7 churches represent a progression of time. And what we would want to know is, when does this cycle begin and when does it end? And the very first church would represent the Apostolic age. The very last church, the church of Laodicea, which, by the way, means the people of the judgment, would symbolize the very last church at the end of time that is living or will live just in the time of the judgment before Jesus comes again. So for that reason, I believe that these 7 churches represent a progression of time from the time of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, the day of Pentecost, the early church, all the way to the second coming of Jesus. There is the answer to your question. So to submit your question, and it can be a question on anything. It can be Bible prophecy, it could be, personal, whatever. To submit your question, text 866-463-5262, or simply 866-GOD-LAMB, L-A-M-B, God-LAMB. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Ivor Myers, and I will see you in the next episode of I Got a Question.